First contact. Terran Shivers stood at the edge of the New Alexandria salvage yard, his leather jacket catching the orange glow of the setting binary suns. The cosmic junkyard stretched for miles, a graveyard of dark starships and discarded technology from 100 different species. To most it was garbage. To Terran, it was an endless source of possibilities. He ran a hand through his tousled light brown hair, his stubbled jaw set in concentration as he studied the latest addition to his collection, a partially damaged quantum stabilizer. The device, no bigger than a bread box, could be worth a fortune if repaired, or it could explode and take half the yard with it. That was the thrill of working with alien tech. "Sir, you really shouldn't be here after hours," a melodic voice called out behind him. Terran turned, his practiced smile freezing as he caught sight of the speaker. A humanoid alien woman hovered at eye level in a sleek hover chair, her green skin almost luminescent in the fading light. Her violet hair cascaded past shoulders left bare by a black corset-style top that made Terran's mouth go dry. "I could say the same to you," he replied, recovering his composure. "But then again, neither of us seems particularly concerned with should." The woman's lips curved into a smile. "I'm Nera Laveri, the yard's new inventory specialist. And you're Terran Shivers, the human who keeps submitting ridiculously lowball bids on our most dangerous salvage." Guilty as charged, he gave a theatrical bow. "Though I prefer innovative procurement specialist. Is that what we're calling scrapyard scavengers these days?" Terran approached her hover chair, noting the advanced propulsion system with professional interest. "That's a Mark 7 gravitational compensator you're running. Must have cost a fortune." Nera's expression tightened. "Standard issue from the Galactic Health Authority after the accident." She trailed off and squared her shoulders. "I've been in this chair for 11 years, 3 months and 17 days. Not that I'm counting." "The compensator is running hot," Terran said, circling the chair. "Mind if I take a look?" "By all means, add unauthorized maintenance to your list of violations." Despite her words, there was something in her voice. Hope, perhaps, or simple curiosity. Terran knelt beside the chair, pulling a multi-tool from his jacket pocket. The compensator housing was warm to the touch, the primary coils misaligned. Easy fix if you've got steady hands and a complete disregard for safety protocols. "Which you clearly have in abundance," Nera observed dryly. Terran grinned up at her. "Lady, you don't know a half of it." He worked in comfortable silence for several minutes, aware of Nera's curious gaze. The compensator's hum shifted from a stressed whine to a healthy purr. "There," he said, standing. "Should run smoother now, and your power consumption will drop by about 30%. Nera's eyes widened as she tested the chair's movement. It feels different. Lighter somehow." "Just a tune-up," Terran hesitated, then plunged ahead. "Though if you were interested, I've been working on something. A prototype. Could be dangerous, probably illegal, definitely interesting." "Mr. Shivers, are you proposing something inappropriate?" "Always, but in this case I'm talking about legs. Robotic ones, custom built from salvage, but better than anything the GHA could provide." The playfulness vanished from Nera's face. "That's not funny." "Not joking. I've got the plans back at my workshop. Would you like to see them?" Nera studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said, "You're either brilliant or insane." "Can I be both?" She laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Lead the way, Mr. Innovative Procurement Specialist. Show me these illegal legs of yours." As they moved through the darkening salvage yard, Terran couldn't help but feel he was starting something far bigger than a simple mechanical project. The way Nera's eyes sparkled when she laughed, the sharp wit behind her words. He was already in trouble, and he knew it. But then again, trouble was his specialty. Terran's workshop was a converted cargo container at the edge of the salvage yard, illuminated by strips of plasma lighting that cast everything in a soft blue glow. Holographic diagrams floated in the air, showing complex mechanical schematics that would have made any legitimate engineer's head spin. Nera maneuvered her hover chair through the organized chaos, her violet hair shimmering under the ethereal lighting. "This is not what I expected," she admitted, examining a wall covered in technical drawings and prototype sketches. "Let me guess, you pictured a grimy chop shop with parts strewn everywhere." Terran grinned, clearing space on his workbench. "I may work with salvage, but I'm not a slob." "Clearly not." Her eyes lingered on a particular diagram. "Are those neural interface schematics?" "Good eye." Terran pulled up the holographic design of the robotic legs. "The biggest challenge isn't the mechanical components, it's creating the seamless connection between your nervous system and the prosthetics. The GHA doctors said neural integration was impossible for my species, something about our synaptic patterns being too complex. They were working with standard medical tech." Terran expanded the hologram, highlighting specific components. "I'm thinking outside the box, way outside. These quantum processors, salvaged from a crashed Erewhon research vessel, they can adapt to any neural pattern, and you just happen to find them. Let's say I have a nose for valuable salvage." He paused, studying her face. "Want to tell me what happened?" "No pressure, but it might help with the customization." Nera's fingers traced patterns on her hover chair's armrest. It wasn't dramatic. No space battle or heroic sacrifice, just corporate negligence. She took a deep breath. "I was a junior engineer on a terraforming project. The atmospheric processors weren't properly shielded when they malfunctioned. The gravitational backlash crushed your lower body," Terran finished softly. "Along with 3 others. I was the only survivor." Her laugh was bitter. "The company's lawyers argued that since we were using experimental technology, they weren't liable. The settlement barely covered my medical bills." Terran's jaw tightened. "Bastards. The universe isn't fair, Terran. I've made peace with that." "Maybe." He moved closer, his voice low and intense. "But that doesn't mean we can't try to balance the scales." Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. Nera broke the contact first, her green skin flushing a darker shade. This was just the beginning of their story, a tale of innovation, defiance, and the boundless possibilities that emerge when human determination meets alien grace. Building trust. The restricted military wreckage zone loomed before Terran like a metallic graveyard under the twin moon's light. Twisted hulks of battle cruisers jutted from the desert sand, their once proud forms now serving as silent monuments to forgotten conflicts. "This is madness," Terran muttered, checking his scanner. The quantum processor he needed was in there somewhere, buried in the wreckage of an advanced warship. Without it, the neural interface for Nera's legs would never achieve the sensitivity she needed. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of progress and growing attraction. Every day, Nera would visit his workshop, ostensibly to help with the leg project. Their hands would brush as they worked, conversations flowing from technical specifications to personal dreams, the air between them crackling with unspoken possibilities. Terran's wrist communicator buzzed. Nera's holographic image appeared, her violet hair gleaming even in the projection. "Tell me you're not actually in the restricted zone. Would you believe I'm just taking a midnight stroll?" Terran. Her tone carried equal parts concern and exasperation. "The security drones are on a predictable patrol pattern." He grinned at her image. "Besides, I had an excellent teacher in bypassing security systems." "Flattery won't save you from plasma burns." Despite her words, Nera's lips curved in a smile. "The quantum processor isn't worth your life." "You are," he said softly, then quickly added, "I mean, the project is. We're too close to give up now." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, Nera said, "Be careful. I've grown rather fond of your reckless human charm." "So just my charm." Among other things, her image flickered. "Security sweep incoming." "Don't die out there, Terran. We have unfinished business to discuss." The hologram vanished, leaving Terran with a racing heart that had nothing to do with danger. But focus, he told himself. The processor first, feelings later. He moved through the wreckage like a shadow, years of salvage runs guiding his steps. The scanner led him to a massive cruiser, its hull split open like a broken egg. Inside, decades-old technology waited to be repurposed. The quantum processor was exactly where his intel suggested, nestled in the remains of the ship's navigation system. As Terran carefully extracted it, his mind wandered to earlier that day in the workshop. Nera had been helping him calibrate the neural receivers, her hover chair positioned close to his workbench. The proximity had been intoxicating. When she reached across him for a tool, her scent, like exotic flowers in starlight, had nearly overwhelmed his professional demeanor. "Your heart rate increases by 23% when I'm near," she had observed, scientific curiosity mixing with something more playful in her voice. "You can sense that. My species evolved as empaths. We can read biological signatures." Her fingers had traced the air near his chest. "Yours is fascinating." The memory of her touch, even through the air, sent shivers down his spine. The way she looked at him, like he was a puzzle she desperately wanted to solve. A security drone's whine snapped him back to reality. Terran cursed, ducking behind a twisted bulkhead. The drone's searchlight swept past his position, illuminating the wreckage in harsh white light. His communicator vibrated. A text message from Nera. "My quarters when you're done playing hero. No excuses." Terran smiled despite the danger. He waited for the drone to pass, then began his careful extraction from the wreckage zone. The processor was secure in his pack, and anticipation burned in his veins. An hour later, he stood outside Nera's quarters in the residential section of the salvage yard. His heart pounded as he knocked, equal parts adrenaline from the mission, and nervous energy about what awaited him. The door slid open. Nera's quarters were bathed in soft purple light that complemented her green skin perfectly. She had changed from her usual practical attire into something more distracting. "You're late," she said, but her eyes sparkled with relief, and something more intense. "Had to take the scenic route, avoiding arrest and all that." He held up the processor. "Mission accomplished. My hero." The words carried no mockery, only warmth. "Though I'm beginning to think you enjoy playing with fire. Only the right kind of fire." Terran stepped closer, drawn by an irresistible force. Nera's hover chair hummed as she moved to meet him. "We should talk about biological compatibility," she said, her voice husky. "My species has some interesting differences from humans." What followed was a night of discovery, where cultural differences melted away in the face of a more universal language. Their connection, built on trust and understanding, transformed into something deeper, more profound. Breaking barriers. The quantum processor hummed with potential as Terran made the final adjustments to the neural interface. Weeks had passed since that first night together, and their relationship had blossomed into something neither of them had expected. The workshop, once merely a space for technical innovation, had become their sanctuary. "Ready for the initial sync?" Terran asked, looking up from the robotic legs laid out on his workbench. The design was elegant, sleek chrome and matte black components that would extend from thigh to toe. Nera nodded, her violet hair cascading over her shoulders. She'd taken to wearing one of his spare shirts during their work sessions, the dark fabric contrasting beautifully with her green skin. "I've been ready for 11 years." Terran connected the neural interface to the diagnostic pad on her lower back. The connection point had been surgically implanted a week ago, a procedure that had caused them both several sleepless nights of worry. "Remember," he said, his voice soft but firm, "this is just calibration, no actual movement yet." "Yes, Doctor," Nera teased, but her fingers gripped the armrests of her hover chair tightly. The interface activated with a gentle pulse. Nera gasped, her eyes widening. "I can feel them," she whispered. They're there." Terran watched the diagnostic readings scroll across his tablet. Neural pathways are establishing. How's the sensation? Strange. Like phantom limbs, but more real. She closed her eyes, concentrating. The right one feels warmer than the left. That's the primary processor. It'll equalize once the system's fully integrated. Terran made a minor adjustment, then froze as Nera let out a small moan. You okay? More than okay. Her eyes opened, dark with meaning. The sensitivity is impressive. Heat rushed to Terran's face as he remembered their recent discoveries about each other's physiology. Their physical relationship had been a journey of exploration, each encounter teaching them new ways to bridge their biological differences. Focus, he muttered, more to himself than her. We need to complete the calibration before. Before what? Nera's voice was pure temptation. Before you get distracted by thoughts of last night. You're not playing fair. When do I ever? She leaned forward, her expression growing serious. Terran, there's something we need to discuss. The tone shift made him look up sharply. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, exactly. It's just. Nera bit her lip, an endearingly human gesture she'd picked up from him. My latest medical scan showed some unexpected results. Terran's heart skipped. The neural integration is perfect, she interrupted. This is something else. Something that according to all known xenobiology should be impossible. Understanding dawned slowly, followed by a wave of dizzying emotions. You're pregnant. With what appears to be a viable human Laveri hybrid. Terran sat heavily on his stool, mind racing. But the genetic differences are substantial, yes. The doctors are baffled. Apparently, human adaptability extends to cellular level. Her lips curved in a small smile. They want to write papers about us. Let them. Terran said automatically, still processing. A baby. Our baby. Are you okay with this? The uncertainty in her voice snapped him out of his daze. Terran stood, moving to take her hands in his. Okay with it? Nera, this is incredible. Impossible. Perfect. Relief flooded her features. The timing isn't ideal. With the leg project. The timing is exactly right. Terran squeezed her hands. By the time the baby arrives, you'll be walking. Such confidence, she teased, but her eyes were bright with tears. In us? Always. He kissed her softly, then returned to the workbench with renewed determination. Now let's finish this calibration. Our child deserves to see their mother dance. The next hour was focused work, interrupted only by occasional moments of shared wonder. The neural pathways strengthened, and Nera's control over the robotic components grew more precise. Ready to try movement? Terran asked finally, after triple-checking all connections. Nera took a deep breath. Ready. He activated the full system. The robotic legs hummed to life, responding to Nera's neural commands. Slowly, carefully, they bent at the knee, then straightened. Holy, Nera breathed, watching them move. They feel natural. That's the quantum processor adapting to your neural patterns. Terran monitored the readings. Want to try standing? She nodded, determination setting her jaw. Terran positioned himself beside her hover chair, ready to support her. With excruciating slowness, Nera shifted her weight onto the robotic legs. They held. I'm standing, she whispered, clutching Terran's shoulders. After 11 years, I'm actually standing. Terran wrapped an arm around her waist, steadying her. How does it feel? Like coming home. Nera's eyes met his, filled with joy and something deeper. Like everything's finally right. Quantum leap. The morning sun cast long shadows through the workshop windows as Terran adjusted the neural interface's sensitivity. 3 months had passed since their first successful test, and Nera's pregnancy was beginning to show. A slight swelling that somehow made her even more beautiful to his eyes. The hormonal changes are affecting the neural pathways, Terran muttered, studying the diagnostic readouts. The interface needs to adapt faster than we anticipated. Nera stood nearby, one hand braced against the workbench, the other resting on her growing belly. The robotic legs responded smoothly to her movements, but there were occasional glitches, millisecond delays that could send her stumbling if not corrected. "My body's changing faster than the quantum processor can compensate," she observed, taking careful steps. "The weight distribution is different every day." Terran nodded, making minute adjustments. "The processor's learning algorithm is impressive, but it wasn't designed for this kind of biological flux. We need to modify the base code." "You make it sound so clinical," Nera teased, walking toward him with deliberate grace, "when really you're just trying to keep up with your child's impact on my body." The words still sent a thrill through him. Their child, a medical miracle that defied xenobiological understanding. The pregnancy was progressing normally, though the doctors remained fascinated by how the human and Laveri genetics had combined so seamlessly. "Speaking of keeping up," Terran said, catching her hand as she passed, "we need to discuss the business proposition." Nera's expression turned thoughtful. "The legitimate salvage operation license. It's time." He pulled her gently into his arms, mindful of her balance. "We can't raise a child on illegal salvage runs and midnight scavenging." "I rather enjoyed your midnight adventures," she purred, pressing closer, "especially the results." "Focus, woman." But he smiled, unable to resist kissing her forehead. "I found a warehouse on the commercial side of the yard. With my technical knowledge and your inventory experience, we could build something real. Something legitimate." "You mean boring?" Nera's fingers traced patterns on his chest, a habit that never failed to distract him. "What happened to my rebellious human? He fell in love with an amazing woman and created an impossible child." Terran captured her wandering hand. "Now he wants to build a future worthy of them both." Nera's expression softened. "You already have. These legs," she demonstrated with a small spin that would have been impossible months ago. "You gave me back my freedom, Terran. More than that, you showed me that limitations are just challenges waiting to be overcome. And you showed me that some rules are worth following." He grinned. "Some." A warning light flashed on the diagnostic panel, interrupting their moment. Nera stumbled slightly, the neural interface flickering. "Damn," Terran muttered, helping her to a seat. "The hormone surge is stronger today. Give me a minute to recalibrate." "It's fascinating, really," Nera said, watching him work. "Our child is literally changing my neural patterns. The doctors say it's because of the hybrid genetics. My body is adapting to accommodate human DNA." "Humans are notorious for forcing adaptation," Terran said, adjusting the quantum processor settings. "It's kind of our thing." "Indeed." Nera's voice turned husky. "I've certainly enjoyed adapting to your particular traits." Terran nearly dropped his tools. "You're impossible. I'm pregnant. My hormones are perfectly justified in their demands." She stretched languidly. "Besides, the doctor said physical intimacy helped stabilize the neural patterns." "Did they now?" Terran raised an eyebrow. "This has nothing to do with your species' legendary appetite during pregnancy. Pure medical necessity," Nera insisted, her eyes sparkling. "For the sake of the neural interface, of course." "Of course." Terran finished the calibration and helped her stand. "Better." Nera took a few experimental steps, then executed a perfect twirl. "Much. Though I might need some additional stabilization later." They spent the next hour reviewing plans and possibilities, their professional discussion frequently derailed by playful touches and meaningful glances. The future they were building felt solid, real, a legitimate business, a proper home for their child, a life where they could be proud of their achievements. "We'll need to register the business this week," Terran said, pulling up the necessary forms on his tablet. "Get everything in order before the baby arrives." 5 months, Nera murmured, her hand moving to her abdomen. "It doesn't seem possible," says the woman walking on quantum-processed robotic legs while carrying a hybrid child. Terran wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his hands over hers. I'd say we specialize in the impossible. New horizons. The warehouse transformation exceeded even Terran's optimistic expectations. The former storage facility now housed state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment, salvage processing stations, and a research lab that would make legitimate institutions envious. Most importantly, it was all completely legal. The licensing board actually complimented our neural interface designs, Terran announced, walking through the newly renovated space with Nera. They're calling it a breakthrough in adaptive prosthetics. Nera, now 6 months pregnant, moved with remarkable grace on her robotic legs. The latest adjustments to the quantum processor had created an unprecedented level of integration. Her pregnancy-induced neural changes were actually improving the system's responsiveness. "We should thank our little one," she said, patting her pronounced belly. "Without these hormonal fluctuations, we might never have discovered the adaptive algorithms. Leave it to our child to revolutionize medical technology before even being born." Terran wrapped an arm around her waist, marveling at how their bodies fit together despite her changing form. "My brilliant human," Nera purred, turning in his embrace. "Who would have thought your illegal tinkering would lead to legitimate innovation?" Speaking of innovation, Terran guided her to the private research lab. "I have something to show you." The lab was their sanctuary, filled with projects in various stages of development. But today a new addition dominated the space. A birthing chair, specially modified with neural interface compatibility. "Terran," Nera's voice caught as she recognized the implications. "The doctor said traditional birthing positions might interfere with the leg interface." He explained, suddenly nervous. "So I designed this. It'll maintain neural connection throughout labor, while providing optimal support for both Laveri and human birth requirements." Tears welled in Nera's eyes, a very human response she'd developed during pregnancy. "You thought of everything." "I had help." Terran activated the chair's diagnostic display. "Your medical team provided the specifications, but the neural integration," he grinned, "that's pure us." Nera ran her hands over the chair's controls, her technical expertise evident in her assessment. "The quantum processor's adaptive algorithms will help manage pain responses and maintain leg function. You'll have full mobility throughout the process." Terran washed her face carefully. "I know how important that is to you." "Freedom of movement during childbirth is sacred in Laveri culture," she murmured. "I never thought I'd have that option." "We're carrying our impossible child, walking on quantum-processed legs, running a legitimate salvage operation that's revolutionizing prosthetic technology." He pulled her close. "I'd say we're specialists in making the impossible happen." The birthing suite hummed with a gentle pulse of advanced technology, a symphony of human ingenuity and alien sophistication. Terran had transformed their private lab into a sanctuary where medical science met personal comfort, every detail carefully planned for this moment. "The neural interface is holding steady," Terran announced, monitoring the complex array of displays. "Baby's bioelectric field is actually stabilizing the quantum processors." Nera stood beside the specialized birthing chair, her robotic legs responding perfectly despite the intense situation. "Our son knows what he's doing." She breathed through a contraction, already taking after his father's technical brilliance. The medical team, a carefully selected mix of human and Laveri specialists, moved with practiced efficiency, amazed by how their patient remained standing and mobile, even in active labor. The adaptive neural interface had revolutionized their understanding of what was possible. Hours later, with the medical team gone and security protocols running smoothly, the new family settled into their private quarters. Nera walked the room with natural grace, their son cradled against her chest, while Terran made final adjustments to the quantum field stabilizers. "The adaptive algorithms have evolved again," he noted, studying the readings. "The neural interface is integrating Nixon's bioelectric signature into its base code." "Of course he is." Nera smiled down at their sleeping son. "He's part of both of us. Human determination and Laveri adaptability. The best of both worlds." Their son, Nixon, named after the Laveri word for bridge between stars, had skin that held a subtle green tint that shifted in the light, while his fine hair showed hints of both violet and Terran's light brown. But it was his eyes that captured everyone's attention. They seemed to hold galaxies. "The medical patents are secure," Terran murmured, moving to embrace them both. "Production facilities are being built. Soon, anyone who needs this technology will have access to it, while the military and corporate interests remain safely managed through our network of carefully chosen partners," Nera added. "Our innovations protected but not restricted." They stood together, watching their son sleep, living proof that boundaries were meant to be crossed, that limitations were just challenges waiting for someone stubborn enough to overcome them. The neural interface hummed softly, a testament to human ingenuity and the power of love to transform the impossible into reality. "Thank you," Nera whispered, "for seeing past my wheelchair that first day, for believing I could walk again." "Thank you," Terran replied, "for showing me that the best salvage isn't found in junkyards. It's found in the connections we make, the boundaries we break, and the love we build together." Outside their window, the twin suns sat on the salvage yard where their story began, casting long shadows across the piles of discarded technology that still held endless possibilities. But the real treasure was here in this room, a family forged from determination, innovation, and the unshakable belief that love knows no limitations. Nixon stirred, his tiny hand grasping Terran's finger with surprising strength. In that grip, they felt the future, a future where human and alien, organic and mechanical, all worked in harmony. A future they had built, step by determined step, from the moment a scrap-eared rebel decided to help a beautiful alien walk again.